So as far as what we're seeing is that gas is certainly more expensive upstream. The upstreamers need more incentives to invest like any other part of the world. We see shorter durations, renewal for lower volumes, and I would say we now have a fairly efficient process in terms of contract negotiations, analysis, and so on, looking at the value chain. The area here becomes a very critical issue because it means that a lot of the companies now, they're doing seismic work, and what it means is that even though we're talking shorter periods, it's going to be very important to have conversations, not at the end of the 5 years, but we have conversations, or 6 years or 7 years, but we have conversations that are essentially real-time, collaborative, with the intent of increasing the periods of time or increasing the volumes as we go along. The problem is we can't do it now until we know more information, right? So this is the area that we're working on. In terms of molecular efficiency, I say ideally because if we look at the industry now, a lot of the molecules are going through all kinds of plants. We have reduced rates, and some of these plants are more efficient than others, and we clearly have plants, molecules going through some inefficient areas as opposed to efficient areas. So the conversations around how we work with that at a difficult time is important. The other thing is we have gas going to electricity, equivalent to about 5 or 6 plants. We're not getting paid for it. It's not the most efficient form of and efficiency in terms of where the molecule should go. So clearly, if we continue like this, that is certainly will hamper our ability to grow. Hence, the reason why I think the renewables area is important. And I speak from the fact that, Chile, for example, has an energy policy 2050. If you look at that energy policy 2050, it's very clear in how renewables are to be tackled. All the energy education in schools happen about energy efficiency. Everybody coming out of the education system knows about energy and conservation and so on. So I think there's a lot of room for national discussion, and there's a lot of work going on in the energy chamber and universities and so on. And now we need a time to really bring this and harness it together. In terms of power and how power is actually shared and how that is actually fed into the system, I think a new model is required. I mean, we have one supplier bearing the burden. We have NGC bearing the burden. So I think the conversation needs to be started with respect to how we have power tranches going forward. The allocation model is not yet defined. As you know, we have, that's the gas master plan is in Parliament, and that was one of the issues that were discussed in the gas master plan. That is not an issue for NGC, to be clear. That's an issue for government. So this is not yet defined. The contracts being optimized in terms of where the risks are downstream, where the risks are upstream. I think there's been a lot of work done in that area over the last year in terms of how we manage our various risks from one chain to the next. I'll talk a bit about growing. And I know on Vernon's plate at NE, there's quite a lot of discussion going on solar parks. You would have seen that in the papers, non-gas investment projects, trying to get projects that do not consume gas, but grow our industry further downstream with what we have. And of course, we know that there's an opportunity for positioning the port of Galeota for growth in Guyana and Suriname. So I know Vernon is occupied with those areas. The LIC area, which has kind of been I just want to be careful here that while we have a lot of headaches on, downstream renewals, upstream conversations, the LIC area is not to be forgotten, right? It's very easy to say, well, they don't take a lot of gas. Let's forget about them, right? Let's focus our attention on other areas. But this is a strategic sector for growth, for energy efficiency, for employment, for foreign exchange. So if we start to look at the LIC area in a more strategic manner, I think you would find that we can play a fundamental role in growing the sector. So LIC needs rebranding, it needs expansion, and it needs better coordination with NGC, and that's what we're focusing on too. So in that regard, you know, the way how we've organized is we have a full-time person and group looking at LIC. There's been some conversations in terms of how we grow locally, regional, and internationally. And the gist of the conversation is that we can have some ideas, but the real value is taking those ideas and discussing it early in the chain. So if we can put this in a pipeline, if we could somehow put this growth strategy in some formula, in some portfolio that can be communicated with the service sector companies like those of you involved here and several other stakeholders, then I think there's a better chance of achieving value.